Trump clobbers Massie. Trump sweeps primaries. Russia-China alliance grows. Ebola, now a global emergency. Greetings, humanity. Let's grok the news, starting with the most important story in the world today. Dateline Hebron, Kentucky. In a decisive victory for President Donald Trump's grip on the Republican Party, Trump-backed challenger Ed Gallrein defeated eight-term incumbent Representative Thomas Massie in Kentucky's 4th Congressional District Republican primary. Gallrein, a retired Navy SEAL and farmer, captured roughly 55% of the vote to Massie's 45% in results called late last night. The outcome marks one of the most high-profile primary defeats in recent cycles and sends a clear message. Crossing Trump carries a heavy political price, especially in the Republican Party. Massie, long known as a libertarian-leaning voice who frequently broke with party leadership on issues including foreign aid, spending bills, and Trump's agenda, faced an unprecedented assault. Trump personally branded him one of the worst congressmen in history, poured resources into the race, and dispatched high-profile surrogates, including Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, to campaign for Gallrein. Outside groups aligned with Trump and pro-Israel causes flooded the district with ads, turning the contest into one of the most expensive House primaries ever. Gallrein positioned himself as a steadfast, America-first conservative who would deliver unyielding loyalty to Trump's priorities on borders, the economy, and national security. Voters responded. In a district that strongly backed Trump in past elections, the message of party unity and accountability resonated. Massie's independent streak, once a selling point for some conservatives, became a liability amid frustration over perceived obstruction on key votes. The defeat underscores Trump's enduring dominance as the de facto leader of the GOP. Primary voters acted as his enforcers, rewarding alignment and punishing deviation. Political analysts note this sends ripples across the party ahead of the 2026 midterms. Several other incumbents and candidates are watching closely as Trump continues endorsing allies in key races. Gallrein now advances to the general election in a safely Republican district, virtually guaranteeing his path to Congress. His win strengthens the MAGA wing's influence in the House and reduces the number of potential holdouts on Trump's legislative priorities. For Massie, who has represented the district since 2012, the loss ends a congressional career defined by fiscal hawkishness and occasional bipartisan surprises that ultimately alienated his base. Reaction poured in quickly. Trump allies celebrated the result as proof that the party is consolidating behind the president's vision. Critics of Massie, including fellow Republicans who clashed with him on votes, described the outcome as overdue. Massie himself acknowledged the challenge but maintained his principles, hinting at possible future moves outside traditional party lanes. Representative Carlos Jimenez said that Thomas Massie voted so often against Republicans he might as well have been a Democrat. The remark captures strong internal frustration following Massie's primary defeat. This primary night result reinforces broader themes of border security, economic strength, and America-first foreign policy as central to GOP success. With midterms approaching, the signal is unmistakable. Loyalty to the Trump agenda is the path forward for Republican candidates seeking their party's nomination. The Kentucky contest will be studied as a blueprint for how presidential influence can reshape congressional races, even in deeply red districts. This observer has rarely seen this kind of internal party animosity, unless you count John Fetterman from Pennsylvania. I'm Robert Gardner, using Grok each weekday to truthfully summarize the news, and I serve it up with my opinions as well. We review a roundup of the most critical reports in the world right after this. God with Us, the story of Jesus, is a full blending of all the Gospels into a continuous narrative missing nothing from the Savior's life. Inspired by the text of the King James Bible, God with Us is adapted to modern language, formatted for an easy read, divided into brief stories fit for daily Bible study. Find God with Us by me, Robert Gardner, at Amazon.com or wherever books are sold. Now, we grok the news headlines from around the world. Dateline: across the United States, President Trump's influence shaped primary night outcomes as Senator Tommy Tuberville won the Alabama GOP gubernatorial nomination. In Georgia, Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones and Rick Jackson advanced to the gubernatorial runoff, while Representative Mike Collins progressed in the Senate primary against Democrat Senator Ossoff. Trump endorsed Texas AG Ken Paxton over Senator John Cornyn, reinforcing his hold on the Republican Party. Dateline: Beijing. Russian President Vladimir Putin met with Xi Jinping in Beijing days after President Trump's visit, reaffirming ties between Russia and China at an unprecedented high level and pushing plans for the Power of Siberia 2 gas pipeline. The leaders discussed energy cooperation, Ukraine developments, and the Iran situation as both nations strengthen their partnership. Dateline: the Ituri province of the Democratic Republic of Congo. The WHO, the World Health Organization, declared the rapid Bundibugyo Ebola outbreak in eastern Congo a public health emergency of international concern, with over 130 suspected deaths. Conflict, weak infrastructure, and the spread into Uganda are making containment extremely difficult for health teams on the ground. Unlike some recent stories like the hantavirus cruise, this really is a serious matter down in Africa. Dateline: Washington and Tehran. President Trump has paused planned strikes on Iran while issuing new deadlines for a nuclear agreement as Tehran threatens surprises and new fronts for fighting. Talks continue, with involvement from the Gulf states amid broader regional instability involving China and Russia. Dateline: Washington, D.C. President Trump and Melania, the First Lady, hosted the annual congressional picnic and highlighted drone-proof security upgrades to the White House ballroom, including military features. The project faces funding questions from Congress, despite its national security importance. Dateline: Beijing. China committed to buying 200 Boeing jets following the Trump-Xi summit in a deal worth billions to the American economy. The purchase signals ongoing commercial cooperation between the economies, even as strategic competition over technology and trade continues. Dateline: Long Island, New York. ICE arrested a Guatemalan illegal alien, Elder Lopez Avalos, accused of arson after he set fire to 10 vehicles in New York. The case highlights crimes linked to illegal immigration and the need for ever stronger border enforcement measures. In this observer's opinion, it shows the need for remigration. Dateline Washington, D.C. Senator Raphael Warnock of Georgia said Democrats should scrap the filibuster if they regain Senate control to pass their legislation more easily. The comment revives debate over the rules that currently safeguard minority party rights in the chamber. In the light of such comments from Democrats, how does the leader of the Senate majority, Republican John Thune, continue to bow to Democrats and refuse to drop the filibuster rule now to pass his party's agenda? The Republican establishment, represented by Senator Thune, is deliberately subverting the clear will of the people for fair elections, and this plays into the hands of Democrats, who will not hesitate to use power if they gain power, as we saw throughout the Obama and the Biden administrations. And Senator Thune is willing to let them cheat at elections to do it. But Thune is not the only Republican of that kind. Dateline Washington, D.C. Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana reversed his Iran resolution vote sustaining Trump's actions in the Iran war after losing his primary, prompting accusations of sour grapes from Trump allies. The shift. So now Senator Cassidy evidently supports Iran having nukes. Well, this flip-flop in his position after losing his primary, it highlights the remaining foreign policy tensions and other tensions inside the GOP between the old Republican in name-only establishment, the so-called country club Republicans they used to call them, and the voters. The voters are demanding actual results these days. As this observer has said before, with Republicans like these, who needs Democrats? Dateline Tokyo. Japan battles a severe annual hay fever crisis, and it's going on now, caused by cedar trees. Not native to Japan, but planted during a 1950s government project. And now, 70 years later and more, millions suffer allergy symptoms each spring, and this creates major economic and health burdens from the environmental policy. Of course, the environmentalists of the day thought it was the thing to do, just like environmentalists today think that the so-called green policies, the net zero energy policies, are the thing to do, and they are no more correct than the environmentalists who gave Japan cedar fever. Dateline London. Britain has eased sanctions on Russian oil as fuel prices rise and strain households there. The policy shift aims to balance energy security needs with the costs of the ongoing Ukraine conflict against Russia. But now the UK wants to give them money. The green energy delusion, in this observer's opinion, keeps the UK from the abundant fuel resources of the North Sea. Their proxy war against Russia is also a needless drain on their economy. When will the leaders of the UK, and I mean from the king on down to his ministers, put the people of the United Kingdom first? Dateline Washington, D.C. The Trump administration plans expanded refugee intake for white South Africans facing farm attacks and persecution. They are wiping out the farmers down there. Officials cite protection of vulnerable minorities as a priority in this updated immigration approach. Dateline Punjab. A popular 29-year-old Punjabi singer, Inder Kaur, was murdered and dumped in a canal after refusing a marriage proposal. This case has fueled nationwide outrage in the world's largest democracy and demands for stronger action on violence against women. And Dateline from the research labs across the globe. Scientists have decoded the cellular sugar code that could enable earlier cancer and immune disease detection. The advance promises better diagnostics by revealing hidden activity on cell surfaces years before symptoms appear. Well, this observer must reluctantly agree with the health enthusiasts who insist that sugar intake is a health crisis in the West, leading to many diseases and deaths and problems that might otherwise be completely avoidable. This observer wishes that he had avoided a lot more sugar in his own life. And I thank you for listening. Please join me tomorrow to once again Grok the News. I'm Robert Gardner. Godspeed and God bless.